Hello everyone, my name is Sander Kokart and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing fantastic. Slight headache, but I'm alright. And today we're going to create the deleteTodo method. So, first of all, a thing that you might want to do is add this thing. The CSS Baseline component. It really helps out with building your own CSS when you want to later down the line. It simplifies things a lot, especially for mobile. So put those around there. It's actually a good practice to put it around the entire app. It's a baseline, that's why it's there. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna put this entire form into a fragment. So fragment, and we're gonna put the entire form in that fragment. There we go. So now the entire form is inside this particular fragment. You see that? So the entire form is inside that fragment. And the reason we do that is because I want to add more stuff to this. So other than just the form and the dialogue, or the form and all these buttons and everything, the table, I want to add a dialogue. So I'm going to call this DeleteDialog. And we need to make it first. So let's go to components, new component, file, DeleteDialog.js. Add it to the Git, yes, RCC, and enter, and go to that name, Alt Enter, convert to functional component. There we go. And it's just going to be a dialog. And the dialog has a required option, which is to have an open attribute. And we're going to receive this through props. And the prop is going to come from here. I'll talk about that in just a second, but let's talk a little bit about prop types. So prop types, they're like, well, the properties of a component that you can give to it if you want to. So in order to make, in this case, our coding program recognize that this prop requires something like an open boolean, we want to use prop type, so it can actually read into it and go like, hey, we need this, or the component won't work. So I'm going to import prop types in capital letters, prop, and then types in capital, from quotes prop types. There we go. Finish it with a semicolon. And then at the bottom here, above the export default, we want to go to the delete dialog, say dot prop types, and this time with a small prop, and then types in capital, equals, and then an object. And inside that object, we can put something like open, and then a colon, and then say a prop types dot bool. Dot is required. So what this will do is it will require at least a property that's called open, and it is required, so it must be there. So it's a lot like this dialog, which has an is required prop type of open. We're going to put that same thing now on the delete dialog. So let's go to that table. You can see here now we have an error. So delete dialog has an error, and it says insert import delete dialog. Okay, so we need to import it, but then we have another error that says insert required attribute open. So we're going to add that. Now we want to create a boolean here that doesn't exist yet. So let's copy the edit one and change it from edit is shown to delete confirmation is shown. Okay, gonna rename that. Again, use state, standard state is false, and we're gonna just give that delete confirmation to the open right here. Simple as that. And then when we go to the delete icon, we can have an on-click on the button. So an on-click on the delete icon button. And we want to do an arrow function here. That is going to do the following. And that is set delete confirmation icon is shown to true. And now the dialog is going to show. Now the dialog can have a title. So let's see, title. And we can call that, we can say, are you sure you wish to delete this to do? There we go. And then we can have some dialog content if you want to. Now in here you would put text or other fields or whatever. I could do this. I could, for example, show this current to-dos task. For example, let's dig into that a little bit later. And then under here, or under here, below the content, we can have dialog actions. There we go. And inside there, we can put two buttons. One button being cancel, and the other one being delete. Okay, so we can cancel or we can delete. So there we go, add that. And now this is what it will look like. So if we open up our to-do app, I get a couple of errors here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here. This one is empty. The props.open. There we go. And now let's go in here. And now when we click on it, we get a we get this. We get this task thing. I want to list that here later. And then we have a cancel or delete button. Really darn simple. Now I could also modify the text color of this if I wanted to, and we will. Maybe even change the button's color if we want to. That's up to you, really. I mean, I might do it differently. We'll see. This is the question that you get on top here. Now, Dialog also has a full width property, and I'm going to set that to true because it looks a little nicer. So there we go. We can also give it a max width or something. Yeah, max width, and put it to something like small for SM. Let's see what that will result in. Okay, so that will go to the smallest it could possibly go, which is for mobile phones. And we can also do large or XL, for example. What will that do? It'll make it really big. So if it allows for the width to happen, that's fine. But I'm just going to keep it at small because that's actually very mobile friendly. So there we go. So I show you where to delete this to do. And then we got these two buttons that are going to have some actions. So in the case of the first button, cancel, what we just want to do is set the DeleteDialog back to false. So we actually need to give another prop here, and that is the set delete confirmation is shown, and then it's going to be a func or prop type, sorry, prop types.func, because it's a function. And let's go to the table, and we'll go to that DeleteDialog here, and actually we're going to set this to is required as well. So now it requires that as well, and we're just going to add that. And I'm just gonna, set delete confirmation is shown. Just gonna add that here, and now we should be able to call it within here. And that cancel, what it's gonna do is it's going to do onClick, arrow function, and then props dot set delete confirmation is shown to false. There we go. And then on the other button, the delete button, we want to do an onClick, and we're gonna have another arrow function, and that onClick is going to be context, which this DeleteDialog does not have access to yet. So context equals use context, and then the to do context, and then in the context dot delete to do. And what it needs is it needs data. So we're gonna give it data, which is gonna be an ID, which is gonna be the current to-do's ID, which is gonna set that to 0 for now. And of course the to-do name, which is gonna be an empty string for now. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. Let's see. Oh, sorry, context. There we go. And that'll do. For now, let's see what that looks like if the cancel functions. So close, cancel, that works. Good. The dialog can also have an onClose. Again, in this case, we also want to run this function. And because we're going to use this multiple times now, I'm just going to grab that entire onClick function, make a small little function right here, const, let's see, hide equals, and it's gonna equal into an arrow function that's gonna just do this, which is props dot set delete confirmation to false. That's all it's gonna do, and we just want to call hide here now on the onClick of cancel, so we can just call hide the onClose, and again put the hide in there, and there we go. So now if we delete cancel, it's just gonna run that same function, but we put it once here, and then we can just put hide and hide in here. Really easy. So the delete to do, in order to get this done, we need to actually give it access to the actual to do that we're giving, or that is of this thing. So the DeleteDialog also needs access to a to do, which is going to be the to do that we're gonna get in here. I mean, are we still in the? No, we are not. Okay. So in this case, let's see, set confirmation is shown to true, and then I also want to set a to delete, I guess, const to null, There we go. So next to this function, the set delete confirmation is shown. I mean, I could also just set that instead and make that the boolean. I mean, a variable that's empty will return false. When something is in it, will return true. So we can actually also do that, but we'll just take a look at it a little bit later. So next to this function, I also want to run set to-do to be deleted, and we're going to set it to to-do, which is this current to-do, which has an ID and a name. Okay, so that's the thing that I also want to give it. Then in here, we can give it the to-do of the to-do to be deleted. There we go. And that is a prop that still needs to be required. So we're going to add to-do to this and say prop types dot shape of, so shape. And then in here, we can put it in. So ID equals prop types dot number. And then there is another one, which is name, which is going to be prop types dot string. Okay, so a shape is an object, and we can define the things inside that object right here. Is there also shape of or something? No, it's just shape. Okay, so there we go, and now we can have access to that to do right here. So we can actually go to that to do now. Let's go here, props.todo dot name, for example. We can put it in here now. So let's see, we got an error here. I'm just gonna remove this and just say object then. Okay, what do we get now? Can I read property name of null? Okay, so it's trying to read something that does not exist yet. So it's already trying to render the dialog, but it doesn't exist yet. So in order to fix this, we need to go to this dialog. And what we're gonna do is do a conditional statement, and that is to say the delete confirmation is shown. In this case, if it's true, then render this. Otherwise, don't do it. So there we go. So now we should remove that error. There we go. So now it will only render that component when the delete is set. So now the delete is set, and there we go. We have access to this to do, and there we go. We could also render this in a table again if we want to, if we would have multiple properties as well. Finally, with that all being set up, the delete to do now gets to send the ID, which is going to be props.todo.id, and the name is going to be props.todo.name. And that's going to be sent to the delete to do now. So let's go to the delete to do function here. And what we want to do is splice the thing that we're looking for. So let's go to the to-do. So let to-dos equals, and then a spread operator, this dot state dot to-dos, and then inside there, and then we need to do to-dos dot, and this is going to get some data, of course. And we're going to want to do to-dos dot find, and we want to find the thing that we've been looking for, which is going to be a to-do predicate, and then return where the to-do.id compares to data.id. So that's the one that we're going to want to return. And the one that it finds, and this is going to be let to-do equals, so that's what it's going to result into. And what we want to do then is to go through the to-dos dot splice, and then we want to look for what we want to look for. So I'm index of splice to-dos dot index of to-do, comma, on the opposite side, delete number is going to be 1. So we're going to delete count 1, and that's going to remove it from the to-dos. And then we can say set state to-dos to to-dos. I still remember it. Haha. And that should theoretically just remove the to-do that we have here. So let's take a look. Delete, delete, and it did remove it. Okay, cool. But this thing doesn't go away yet, and we need to fix that. So we're going to go back to the delete dialog, and after this context.delete to do in the arrow function, we're going to run another function that's going to be next to here, hide. There we go. So let's see. Delete, delete, and it hides. Awesome. So with that being done, I mean, do I need to? Yes, I do need to put the parentheses here because this is inside of a JavaScript function. So anyway, that has been it. It's a really long video. I'm really sorry. We can start working on the back end, which is going to be the most exciting part because most of you are not very familiar with PHP at this level, which is Symfony, which is really cool, and I really recommend. Yeah, this has been the delete function for the front end. It's been a little bit complicated, so let's just summarize real quick. We turned the to-do table into a fragment to be able to render multiple components. That component that's being rendered extra is the DeleteDialog. Now, why did I put it right here and not just adjacent to the button? It's because I don't want to generate a dialog for every single button. Yes, it would make it easier to have access to the to-dos itself, but in reality, in retrospect, this is just not a good method because you'd be creating tons of unnecessary HTML code. Instead, you could just also put it next to it like so, and now we only have one dialog that just depends on some data. So now when the delete confirmation is shown, we do an ampersand operator right here, dual, put them in parentheses, and that is a condition, and inside the parentheses, we can render components. If you wanted to render JavaScript in here, we could use curly brackets instead. But we wanted to render a component, so we use parentheses. That component now takes 3 props: the to-do, the open boolean, and the set delete confirmation is shown, the confirmation as well, because it needs to be able to close itself, and then that is also parsed into it. Then we receive those props right here. We create a function to hide everything, which is the delete set delete confirmation is shown to false. With that being said, we have access to the context again right here. I'm just going to put that on top because that's better. And we return a dialog that has an onClose, which is a hide. We have a full width on there, max width. We have an open boolean, which is the props that open that we gave it. The dialog title is here. Are you sure you wish to delete the to-do? Dialog content that renders the to-do name. And then we have dialog actions, which has 2 buttons, one of which hides, and the other one goes to the context and actually deletes the to-do. Now you could also just run this immediately, like this entire onClick. You could just put that on the delete button if you wanted to instead, but I wanted to have a confirmation to make sure that that person really wants to delete something. So confirmation in this case is a lot better, and that's what we did here. And then we close that all off, and that's really what we have done today. Then in the delete to-do function here, in the method, we get some data. We get a copy of the to-dos that we already have, which is the state to-dos. We go through the, which is this, by the way, so this.state, the to-dos, and then we go and return the to-do ID that compares to the data ID, so the ID of the to-do that comes in. Then we have the to-dos, we go through them, we splice them, and we want to get the index of this particular to-do that we just found inside to-dos, and the index of basically returns the number where that to-do is found, which is the array index. And that particular location we want to delete. And how many do we want to delete? 1. Then we set the state of the old for the new to-dos to these new to-dos, and that's how it's all done. So again, really complicated, somewhat. Not really. I just make it look really complicated because I've been going back and forth, and the style is still questionable because this does not look really fun or cool. We're going to mess around with styling later down the line if we want to, but to get basic things working, this is how it's all done. So thank you guys for watching. Sorry for the long episode, but thank you for joining me here today, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.